Hey folks, welcome back. This is Chris live in central Pennsylvania. It's Friday, April 4th, 2025. Another friends and family only day, FAFO. Bad day for South Africa. Oof, man, the winds buffeting South Africa are something else today. I have here in my, as Rush Limbaugh once said, formerly nicotine-stained hands, although I've never smoked, so they're not formerly nicotine-stained, but I always like that phrase from a former smoker. I have here in my grubby little hands two pieces of potential legislation directed against South Africa. And it's not pretty, folks. It is not pretty. 15 pages. 15 pages. House resolution presented by Representative Ronnie Jackson of the 13th Congressional District of Texas. Ronnie Jackson is the former personal physician of Donald Trump in his first term. This is an update to last year's effort to pass a resolution in the House, a bipartisan effort by Democrats and Republicans to review the relationship with South Africa last year. That was the plan. That was a 6-page document. This is a 15-page document listing egregious offenses against America's national interests and our national security interests, and it is shocking to say the very least. Can folks hear me out there okay? Just make sure everybody can hear me okay. Make sure I've got the chat on. There we go, live chat. Okay, cool beans. So, for instance here, at the very beginning, this is a bill to require a full review of the bilateral relationship between the United States and South Africa and identify South African government officials and ANC leaders eligible for the imposition of sanctions and for other purposes. Wow. And it goes and lists page after page after page of the grievances the United States has with South Africa's ANC. This is not pretty. Not pretty, including meeting with Hamas before October 7th of 2023. Mentioning Lady Pandor and her trips to Tehran, ANC hosting Hamas in December of 2023 in Pretoria, the politically motivated suit to the International Court of Justice against Israel, Lady Pandor saying she'll arrest South Africans if they serve in the IDF on their return, Ibrahim Rasool hosting Hamas officials in Cape Town, ANC renaming Santon Drive to Leila Khaled, the terrorist who hijacked a TWA flight and endangered the lives of Americans. Close relations with the Russian Federation. The Lady R, Operation Mosi 2, the naval exercise in China and Russia. Landing of a Russian sanctioned military cargo plane at Waterkloof Air Force Base. These are all things I've told you about repeatedly over the past few years. And it looks like people are actually paying attention to these events now. Their relationship with the Chinese Communist Party, allowing former U.S. combat pilots and NATO pilots to train People's Liberation Army fighter pilots at the Test Flying Academy in South Africa for the purposes of improving the Chinese national defense. That's insane. They roll with the Confucius Institutes, 6 of them backed by the Communist Party. Participation in political training school in Tanzania fueled by the Communist Party. Allowing sanctioned companies to do business in South Africa like Huawei, ZTE, and Hikvision. And the really scary thing here is they talk about the mismanagement of South Africa by the ANC government. The ANC-led South African government has a history of substantially mismanaging a range of state resources and is often proved incapable of effectively delivering public services threatening the South African people and the South African economy. As illustrated by Ramaphosa's declaration of a national disaster because Eskom couldn't deliver electricity in 2023. The failure of Transnet to provide sufficient capacity for rail operations, hindering mine operations, the export of iron ore, coal, and other commodities. Outbreak of cholera that took place. Jeez. Rampant state capture that emerged and grew during the Zuma time. Now, this is the sense of Congress. This is some bad news here. It is the sense of Congress that it is in the national security interest of the United States to deter strategic, political, and security cooperation and information sharing with the People's Republic of China and the Russian Federation, particularly any form of cooperation that may aid or abet Russia's war of aggression on Ukraine or its international standing or influence. Now, isn't that funny? Because this is coming from Congress Republicans who are allied with Trump, and isn't Trump supposed to be the friend of Putin? Yet here he is calling out Russia over and over again. And the South African government's foreign policy actions have long ceased to reflect its stated stance of non-alignment and now directly favor the People's Republic of China, the Russian Federation, and Hamas, a known proxy of Iran, and thereby undermine the United States' national security and foreign policy interests. This is damning, folks. And what is the response from the South African government? Ron Lamola goes and tells the press that, well, it's misinformation and propaganda. No, this is a F around and find out situation here, ladies and gentlemen. They want a full review of the bilateral relationship with South Africa, which is what they tried to do last year, but it failed because Biden was president and the Democrats control the Senate. Republicans control the House, the Senate, and the White House now, so this could very well become a law. Now, they want a report 120 days after the act is put in place, and they want a list of senior ANC senior South African government officials and ANC leaders the president determines have engaged in corruption or human rights abuses that will be sufficient, based on credible evidence, not simply a hearsay, to meet the criteria for the imposition of sanctions pursuant to the authorities provided by the Global Magnitsky Human Rights Accountability Act. Ladies and gentlemen, this is huge. This is unbelievable. I mean, I can't overstate what's going on here. This is bad mojo for the ANC, bad mojo for South Africa. It all comes on the heels of a 30% tariff that was placed on South Africa a couple days ago on all their exports, which now makes them uncompetitive when it's shipping automobiles. South Africa shipped 25,533 automobiles to the United States, and these are high-end cars from Daimler-Benz and BMW. Well, now your cars have a 30% tariff. Those coming from Europe only have a 25% tariff. It's a shorter route. There's more ships, more reliable. Guess who we're going to buy the cars from? Not South Africa. Wow. Wow. Unbelievable. Let me say hello to people in the chat here. Some comments coming up. Your dog built a monument in the backyard to commemorate the existence of the ANC. That's cute. All these bills mean, what do they mean for the refugee? Now, it was asked last night, Ricardo Bezuidenhout, but you weren't there. The bill, only one bill is related to the refugee program. That's one by Troy Nels from Texas, and it confuses the refugee situation. It's wholly unnecessary. President Trump's executive order carries the weight of law under the Immigration and Nationality Act of 1980. He has that sole authority to do what he did, and there's no need for the law. I think it can be encouraging for South Africa from a standpoint that means that Congress is paying attention to what's going on in South Africa. So from that standpoint, I suppose it's good. And Pete says Congress discussing sanctions against the ANC is a move in the right direction. Well, some people think that. My shares have fallen 20,000 already, so I'm too scared to look today. Well, awkward, Leon, the approach I take to this is that I don't care. The companies I've bought into are sound companies that will survive even this situation. And if I had spare cash, it would be a buying opportunity at some point. The question is, when do you reach the floor? You don't want to buy halfway through the fall. If stocks are falling, you don't want to buy here. You want to buy when they hit the bottom and they come back. So, yeah, I appreciate where you come from. People who are on a budget relying on that for retirement, that's a tough break for them. But I'm not there yet. You must see what the MK party had to say about Trump's tariffs. I have no idea what to say. They probably called it racist, even though he did against the entire world. It's mostly white countries he did against. Everything gets everything they deserve for their greed and for making own people suffer in poverty. Over $1 trillion wiped off the South African Stock Exchange yesterday. Today looks the same. Wow. Yeah, got gold? That's a good question. Yeah, gold is going to soar. I would not be surprised to see gold reach $4,000 an ounce in the near future. No one elsewhere is reporting on the Hamas South Africa-Israel link. What are you saying there, Michelin Star? Ben Shapiro probably doesn't know about it. Lewis just gave 140 Rand super chat, says you're amazing. Well, thank you very much. Bye-bye, Donkey. I appreciate that. So, Days of Thunder, you didn't get notified about this broadcast because it wasn't a scheduled broadcast. So I don't know when I'll be able to break free and take my pause during the day because of other obligations. And so I don't schedule this. Sometimes I can break free 11:30, sometimes break free after 12, and so this was short notice. This will also be a shorter broadcast today. Got to wrap up what we're doing here and hit the road for the weekend. So. You're starting to think that the CIA has gamed this out, so the whites have no choice. Why would the CIA give a flying flip about white South Africans? I think you've been drinking a little too much Casa Lager there, my friend. Any good news? Let's see if I have any good news. Yes, the United States added 228,000 jobs. That's a huge bump over what the forecast was, 130,000 jobs. So for those coming to America, there's a lot of work here. Yeah, the 228,000 in March is a big deal, but unemployment ticked up by 0.1%. I'm not really sure what that's all about. Oh, and the F-47 is the sixth-generation fighter jet we're developing now. It's named after President Trump, the 47th president, the F-47. So there you go. So there's a couple of things. And then on the International Criminal Court front, Viktor Orban, the Prime Minister of Hungary, has said that Hungary is withdrawing from the ICC. Well, there you go. That's interesting. So you want some good news? There's some good news. Well, let's try this in Afrikaans and in Xhosa. Zuid-Afrika se aglige dag. Ja. Zuid-Afrika se aglige dag. En in Xhosa, usuku ulubi umzansi Afrika. There you go. The ANC requested assistance from whom, Dr. Tour? Yeah, the F-47 is super cool. Named and numbered after a president. I don't think we've ever done that before. Yeah. I'm sure we haven't done it before. Yes, the ANC's chickens have come home to roost. I have no idea, Andre, whether that's true about them knowing about the Hamas attack, but I would not be even remotely surprised if we find evidence that's true. And Gama, there you go, speaking Zulu. Yep, bad day indeed. Thank you for the Zulu. I looked up the Zulu one because I didn't know what it was. Usuku Ulubi. Yep. Controversial question. What do you think the future of USA looks like with the so-called trade wars? I feel like new tariffs are not the best idea. They should have done the math better. Well, that's a fair point, Rudy. I'm not going to dispute your comment there. I think I would have done it differently too, but I would have taken a different approach to Africa and AGOA because I don't think that was considered. But I don't foresee a trade war. People keep talking about a trade war. I think a lot of people are going to capitulate and back down. I mean, why is it fair for Europeans to send their cars to America for 2.5% tariff, and then when we ship Cadillacs to Europe, they charge us 10% tariffs? That's not even remotely fair. Never mind the quotas they put on the number of vehicles we can ship in the country and the requirements have. You know, Japan a few years ago made us disassemble every motorcycle. A brand new motorcycle shipped to Japan had to be disassembled and reassembled before it could be sold there. What a ridiculous requirement. Do you know how many man hours it took to take apart every motorcycle we produced? For what reason? To slow down the number of vehicles coming in and increase the price. That's not right. Ren says, Chris, there must be a law protecting citizens against the stupid ANC government being enjoyed. No, there's no law. That's just why people should vote. When and where did you meet Ronaldo? What are you talking about, Napoleon? When and where did I meet Ronaldo? You mean the first time? Online, when I called into his show in 2020. First time I met him online, we spoke on a WhatsApp or Zoom or something like that back in 2020 on his program. The first time I met in person was in 2022. Yeah, a lot of people, Darlene, are saying that the DA is leaving the GNU. I don't really think it matters whether they stay or go. South Africa is screwed. If South Africa did know about the October 7th attack, the Europeans are terrified of being called anti-Semitic. I guarantee that the Germans would if it's proven definitively that Naledi Pandor and Durko knew about the attack before it happened, then South Africa's in deep crap with the Germans, and at a minimum, probably with the Brits as well, but certainly with the Germans, who are gun shy about being called anti-Semitic. So they will strike. Yep. Yeah, I know it's the same as Xhosa, but the way you say South Africa is different in Zulu, Gamer. Yeah. Usuku ulubi. Usuku ulubi. It's a bad day, man. Ernst, 100 Rand, will this buy a coffee in USA? 100 Rand will buy a coffee. 100 Rand is going to be $5. Small coffee, though, not a big one. What's the mood like in the USA? Pretty good. Unless you happen to be a government worker. That's a lot of people concerned about that right now. But the mood's pretty good. Turns out South Africa helped Hamas and helped, in some ways, has shamed South Africa at the moment. Apparently there were tariffs placed on the island where only penguins live. That's correct. That is correct. So it's over 19 to the dollar now. The only new development, Gideon, was yesterday. There's a new law coming out. It's in Congress being introduced by Troy Nels of Texas that would grant status to white South African Afrikaners. Yeah. reporting section is about on the new bill for refugees? Sure. We've got that here as well. That's why I brought it with me. Kind of commingled here. What's that? Okay, hang on a second. I got this mixed up now. Oh, it's right here. It's on the top. Sorry. So the reporting section on that bill is that 180 days after the law is enacted, and every 90 days after that, that they must report the total number of applications that are pending at the end of the reporting period, the average wait times for all applicants who, as of the day of the report, were awaiting employment verification, a pre-screening interview with Resettlement Support Center, an interview with U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, and also the completion of security checks, and the number of denials of applications for refugee status disaggregated by the reason for each such denial. That's what you have to report on that bill if it becomes law. If it becomes law. Oh, did you like the morning shot takeover? That was pretty cute, wasn't it? What do you think about the proposed sanctions against the ANC? Well, walk and talk. What I think is that it's not unwarranted, and it's not surprising. I try to warn South Africa's leaders to stop. They're going to get themselves in trouble. Yep. Herodotus claims that Israel knew about the attacks before they happened. I don't think that's true. Well, I'll get a good weekend off next week. I got a project going on next weekend, so I won't be live broadcasting next weekend. This weekend I will be, though. But next weekend I've got some stuff going on, so I won't be live broadcasting. Will the chance of these sanctions actually change anything in South Africa good? I don't know. It depends who they target and how they do it, if they do it. We're a long way from sanctions, folks, unless Trump does it unilaterally. You're not getting notifications because this wasn't announced. This wasn't a scheduled broadcast. Understand how the ANC is indoctrinated. Are they creating narcissists? They refuse to take accountability. Yeah, it's always someone else's fault. They never accept any. They never accept any responsibility for that. They might have done something that antagonized America. No, it's all America. Disinformation, misinformation. Really? We can read Section 25 of the Constitution. We can read the Expropriation Without Compensation Act. We've done that. We can read the Bella Act. We can do all that. We've done all that. You sound so positive about South Africa, you don't even care if the DA stays in government. Why would I care? I'm not a South African. It's not my place to care about what the DA does. The DA made this bed. They have to lie in it. They've not done anything substantive. They've allowed themselves to be taken up the backside by the ANC and be treated like subalterns of the ANC. The whole thing about the media reporting and the ANC claiming that they're going to kick the DA out of the coalition is nonsense. They have no such authority. The government national unity is a creation of the DA and the ANC. One can't kick the other out. One can leave, but one can't kick the other out. It's ludicrous for the ANC to claim that they can kick the DA out. The DA has to decide what they want to be when they grow up. I don't think they've decided that yet, and that's a problem for South Africa. I take it you're being facetious about me sounding so positive about South Africa. I agree with you completely. However, many professionals have cited trade deficiencies and surpluses as a common occurrence in trade. In other words, the countries will now turn inward rather than trade. No, I think that countries like Lesotho has already put a delegation together to fly to D.C. to say, hey, well, what did we do wrong? Okay, we're not avoiding buying stuff from you. We're just a poor country. Nobody has any money. We can't afford to buy your stuff. We have no trade barriers against you. That's what they're going to do. And maybe they'll convince the Trump administration that that is the case, and Trump will back off the tariffs. We'll see. So, just saying. I mean, it's a possibility. What types of jobs can refugees expect to do and experience? Well, audiobooks for teenagers, you can do any job you're qualified to do, save one that requires a security clearance for the U.S. government. You can't get a security clearance for the U.S. government if you're not a U.S. citizen, so you can't get that work. But short of that, you can work anywhere you want. You want to be a professor, you want to be a farmer, you want to be a fireman, you want to be a police officer, you want to be a coder. If you got skills, go do it. There are no restrictions. We don't control our labor market like some countries do. We're not like South Africa where we exclude white people because they're white. What wine do you like? I like the Cape Shiraz, but I prefer white wine. Nishai's bag, peace water. Regarding the refugee program, when the program is launched and officially open, how is working in the USA, for example? I don't think you'll be able to do it from the U.S., Louis Creel, but there's a possibility. This law that Troy Nels is putting forward gives the impression you might be able to do that, but the existing law does not allow you to do that. You have to apply from South Africa. But in my reading of the way that the law is written, but I'm not an attorney, is that you're here temporarily on H2 visas, so H2A visas, so you're actually still a resident of South Africa. So you're not settled in the U.S., you're just here on a temporary work visa. So you could apply from here online, most likely, but you'd have to fly back to South Africa, most likely, to get your interview. I see there's a troll. Thank you, Arctic. The world has been caught off guard by how swiftly the Trump administration has been able to move and just how effective they are. Yes, Rick, yeah, the Trump administration has caught everybody off guard. I've been working 15, 18 hours a day since January 16th before Trump came in office, and it's a direct result of the Trump administration, what they're doing, and then what's happened. Paul M. is on his way to Moscow. Who is Paul M.? Yeah, Ronaldo, I think, did a video about that, but I don't have sources in the DA that would tell me that, so. Yes, definitely the way you say so. Yeah, exactly, in game. That's why the Zulu way, I don't know how to say it's Mzansi Africa is how the Costa say it. Bill is great. It makes awareness and it will continue after 4 years. What bill? What bill? You talking about the refugee bill? It becomes a law. Unless the law is overturned by another law, it stays in perpetuity. Unless it's time frame. If they put a time frame on it, but there's nothing in this bill that has a time frame on it. Play giraffe. Hey, Pierre Orban. Yeah, I agree that government work is now being threatened. As someone in financial crime compliance, there are many developments that fly in the face of what we as experts believe is best to fight. Yeah, 30%, and they thought they were being clever with all the shenanigans. USA's called them out with truths even they never knew about. Exactly. Yeah, Troll didn't make it very far. Thank you, Artie. Clearly, the ANC and leaders must take responsibility. Yeah, but they're not going to do it. Hey, Mel. Thanks, Chris. Does the reporting affect how quickly they approve applications? No, it has nothing to do with it. Congress frequently, when it passes legislation or gives authority to an agency to do things, requires them to report back to Congress so they can monitor, because Congress has an oversight responsibility for laws that it enacts. Yeah, so that has nothing to do with that. Hey, Dylan, how you doing? They want the World Health Organization to pay some of their bills. Who do you think funds the World Health Organization? We do. Most of its funds come from the United States. I should have bought gold 5 years ago, Sean. You're not alone. And Namibia will be affected by this because the Namibian dollar is tied directly to the South African rand, and so they're going to suffer too. Plus, they also got tariffs because they have high, I think they get 21% tariffs applied to them. With higher thresholds and a lackluster approach to financial crime, the U.S. is quite literally allowing illicit funds into its economy as much as a benefit. Well, what higher thresholds and what lackluster approach are you talking about? Please share that, Rudy. Hope you're all good. Yeah, Friday is a very big political powder keg. Yeah, well, everyone's talking about F around and find out on Friday. Well, F around and find out. Came true. No, the ANC would continue to get away with what they're doing. It would all being put in place. Yeah, the ANC's got the attention they wanted. Yep, that's what I just talked about, Sonia, is that Lesotho is sending a delegation to the U.S. to try to get that taken down. So Lesotho, it's huge news for them. Lesotho, 45% of their clothing export, or their total exports, go to the United States. It's about $268 million a year. That's almost half their exports. They produce 440,000 pairs of Levi's every month. It's over 5 million pairs of Levi's produced in Lesotho every year. The U.S. exports are 237 million in clothing alone to the USA in 2024. This is bad news for them. Hey, Mayor Cat, what's going on? The die has been cast. The Gray Hour, 35 rands. Thank you very much. Have 1.5 on me. Good evening, Cat. So a short SABC apologizing to African Foreign Information about them in the old flag. Yeah, I didn't see that, but yeah, that's because the press ombudsman told them they had to apologize because they lied. I think they should be fined and sanctioned for their lies. Do they think they could change the ANC when people show you who they are? Yeah, exactly. That's right, Lenny. When people tell you who they are and they show you are, they just believe them. There's no reason not to believe them. Mickey says it feels like we won the lottery. I was awake at 3 a.m. when it came through and I was crying with joy and deep emotion. Well, that's crazy about your Oscar. I tried a different office. A lot of people get their passports in 2 and 3 days. Gerardus says that's why security at the border was so relaxed. Okay, Gerardus, you tell me, please, which border posts were unmanned, which units that are supposed to be on duty were not on duty, what countermeasures were reduced, which cameras were turned off. Please, you're an expert on the border crossing with Gaza. Have you lived in Israel? I have. I've lived in Israel. Okay, so you might be an expert, Gerardus, but please tell us. Please tell us. Rather than fantasies dreamt up by right-wing lunatics and left-wing fantasy makers, I'm not claiming you're one of them, but you apparently read something one of them wrote. What was done here that was so lax? Yeah, I heard about this. Apparently part of the platinum mine, but I got to look into that one, Alfonso. I'm pharmacist, but have to write exams in America. Okay. You're welcome, Black Ink Cash Guitars. Linda Grisa, welcome to you. ANC never got reparations for apartheid. Spare me. The ANC doesn't deserve reparations for apartheid. They committed crimes and they went to jail. Mandela freely admitted he was a terrorist. He was also a boxer, a lawyer, former president, political prisoner, prisoner of conscience. All those things are true about him. And a boxer. Well, I understand where you come from, Clive. Keep up the good work. More greetings from Toronto. Welcome, Wuta Olafia. Well, there's Ronaldo close right there, folks. Hey, Ronaldo. So you reported with confidence that the DA is leaving the government of national unity. Okay, cool. Lewis, 35 rand, thank you. You're welcome, Brayton Buck. No, I don't think if you apply for a green card and your farmer sponsor will go any faster than they did before, because that's not related to the refugee program. Don't think they have any impact whatsoever. They'd have to change something. I'm disabled. Of course you can come to America, Gideon. Of course you can come to America. Doesn't matter how old you are, it doesn't matter how young you are, it doesn't matter what your sex is, what your gender is, what your sexual preferences are. If you're not a criminal and you're threatened, your life's in jeopardy, and you apply and you get accepted, you can come here. Disabled people, retired people, it doesn't matter. Your life is what matters. I'm not drinking Dr. Pepper, I'm drinking iced tea. It's raspberry iced tea. The regular ones were out, so I got this from the fountain. Stop watching Netflix. Okay, cool. I don't think it will expedite green cards for South Africans. You're very welcome, Elizabeth Kruger. Vincent must have shared some private information, so it was taken off. Real Wesley wants to thank me. You're welcome. Gotta go, says Dylan. Okay, you're welcome. I was in an accident an hour ago with taxing Hamas. Now they threaten me to come and kill me. Unbelievable. Sorry to hear that, Martin. The ANC's not afraid of the U.S. They are laughing at the tariffs off. Okay, well, yeah, they can laugh them off all they want. That's not going to stop them. You know, I'm seeing some international officers out here trying to see where they're from. Looks like Bosnia. Thank you very much, Rudy. The USA is increasing reporting thresholds for receipts of cash. We as experts believe this will create a big opportunity for money laundering. Well, I don't disagree with you, but the cash flows. See what you're talking about, Rudy, is that's a non sequitur. Okay, so the threshold for cash reporting or financial transactions is $10,000, correct? They're raising it. Is that what you're talking about? The U.S. government habitually, routinely pays attention to all sorts of cash transfers, down as low as $3,000. Yeah, so it's announced, and people think they only look for, so I'll put $8,500 in this transaction, they won't notice it. But we do. Treasury, Commerce, they look at these things. Federal Reserve, they look at these things all the time. So, yeah, but you're right. On the surface, it gives the impression, yep. Xavier, what's going on? Is it more difficult to overturn a law from the proposed bill than executive order when the administration comes in? Yeah, it is, because you have to get a law changed by Congress and signed by the president. So you're correct about that. And that might be why this guy wants to do this. You may want to put a law in so that, they don't have, good God, these people have big mouths that come in here. They may be wanting to put the law in so that you don't have to worry about executive order overriding things. But the executive order won't matter. Once you're granted that status, it's outside the executive order. It's under U.S. law. The executive order is simply directing the execution of the law that exists, the Immigration and Nationality Act of 1980. So therefore, I wouldn't lose any sleep over it, folks. Driver was drunk with traffic cops, let him go. Unbelievable. Let me guess what his ethnicity was. Chuck Norris DNA. This will open the gates for money to the USA like the UAE, but one needs to be careful when it amounts to outpricing local citizens. What do you mean outpricing? What sanctions list? There was no sanctions list. Where are you getting a sanctions list from, Derek? Where is Rob Persoff getting his sanctions? There's no sanctions list. I have the law. Here, the bill right here. There's no names on it. There's no names on it. 15 pages. There are no names. Is someone circulating a list now that they've made up? Yeah, South Africa's toast, man. If it's true about Hamas, it's over. It's over. Even the Europeans will ban the ANC if they did this. Oh, hey Xavier, happy wedding anniversary. Well, why did the ANC ignore the public's questions about Lady R from the American Embassy's request for an answer for 5 months before Brigitte went public with it? Because they got caught red-handed. Hauptmann, £5, lucky man. This Navik tight for Kuswe.
Yeah.
Kuswe. Putting myself out there as protection because I'm known journalist and I've been so critical. It's more dangerous to keep me quiet. Who are you talking about, Mickey? Is the U.S. National State Service comfort? Oh, Navy ship Hopple. Still, yes, it is. No, it's off topic, Art, but it's still in operation. It's based in Baltimore, Maryland, in the harbor there. Yep. You're welcome, William. Well, I can believe it, Daniel. The racism and bigotry about government officials is epic. Yeah, if Ronaldo's still here, did he leave? Huh. Emma Powell said something to Colleen. Hey, Michael Cloty. Well, that's who provides the cups, man. One of the American by Christmas is Napoleon, okay? Currently working UK and hope that I'll still qualify for yes. Not if you're settled there, Zena. If that's your permanent residence, it's not going to work. But I would apply anyway and fly back to South Africa as long as you have an address. The more it's coming out, the less hopeful and downer I'm getting. I'm applying for refugee status. My mom is 76, does not want to go. Well, Pierre Vaughn, I don't know what to tell you, man. It's good to see the U.S. standing up to ANC destructive rhetoric. Yep. Just tuned in. Are you waiting for something specific? What do you mean waiting? I'm not waiting on anything. I'm reporting.
You thought I was gonna miss the
victims of farm attack in Limpopo where they shot my mom, dad, and sister. Good God. Hopefully they didn't die.
Oh, you don't know what?
What does the personal sanction mean? Oh, it means a lot of bad stuff there, Jonathan. It really means a lot of bad stuff. Number one, you can't travel to the West. So no London, no Paris, no Berlin, no Washington, D.C. Now, it'll start with D.C., but these other countries, God, this guy's got a big freaking mouth. These other countries will likely follow suit. But it means you can't come here. That means you'll be gray listed on the financial transactions, so you'll be banned from doing international financial transactions, so your credit cards will be useless abroad. You have so many other things can be applied. It's very, very bad. Very, very bad. I'm aware of the new security bill, Rudy. That's intentional. I want to disarm people. Yep, and all the loans. Well, the World Bank, they just asked the World Bank for $1.5 billion loan. That's not going to happen. Man, should this guy just sit down? The platinum mine story was debunked. That's why I didn't report on it, Yaku. I figured it wasn't legit. Thank you very much, Jan. Wow, so Rose. Okay, cool. Did you like the video, Marinda?
Where's Bill? See? Where's back here? I had on my truck before.
And asked this to be frozen. Can't wait to meet me and give you a big hug. Okay, Jane? Just saying we need to be careful in decreasing. Yeah, look, I'm with you, Rudy. But again, like I said, the Treasury Department looks at transactions across the board. The whole thing about $10,000, that's a misnomer. That is the legal threshold, but they look at stuff much lower than that. They look for illegal transactions. They have software that does this. So I'm not so concerned about it. They're Americans, so very loud. Ha 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 ha! Listen, Ronaldo, the loudest guy in the room. 69,000 subscribers. Yeah. No, we grew 1,000 between midnight and 8 o'clock this morning. We grew 1,000 subscribers on the channel. That's the fastest growth we've had in about 2 weeks. So we've been growing steadily, but that's big growth. If things go well, we'll hit 70,000 today. Family was brutally attacked on this farm and died. Sorry to hear that, Renell. ANC will never step aside because they're drunk on power, greed, and corruption. Well, they're also afraid it hurts the prosecution for their crimes. Yes, Trump's tariffs basically cancel AGOA. Yep. No, AGOA still exists, Dirk, but it was not going to be renewed anyway. It was not going to be renewed anyway, so. Bro, as I told people over here I wanted to come over to USA, they told me the grass is not always greener on the other side. How can they be here and still say that? How can they be in South Africa and say that? Because they're liars. I've lived in 16 countries and been to over, 78 countries around the world. I think I can tell you that it's what you make it no matter where you go. Inkwell's mom's birthday. Okay, happy birthday to Inkwell Odyssey's mom. Happy birthday there. Yeah, well, we'll see what's going on after the allegations. If the allegations the ANC knew the terrorist attack, all Western countries would ban them. Yes, I think so. Oh, I'm always busy, Peter. Paul Paul's a fan, yeah. So, garden route hiking, what you're saying is complete bullshit. What are you talking about? USA doesn't take on Russia. Biden imposed sanction after useless sanction on Russia. Trump is also putting sanctions on Russia. Trump is also twisting Putin's arm. So what are you talking about? What are you talking about? What you're saying makes no sense. I can't put the Substack link up, Miranda, because I'm on my mobile phone. Maybe one of my monitors can put the Substack link up.
Did you get anything else, sir? Oh, you want your drink?
Liz, thank you for the 35 rand super chat. Do I want to say something about Gabe McKenzie? Like what? He's not in the news today. Yeah, well, this is because they're racist. So Corey says, I got frustrated watching TikTok today. Black Americans gave a speech supporting ANC, no clue what she's talking about. Yeah, because she's just a racist. All she sees is color. Meredith is single in the 50s, unemployed for 10 years. If I sell my home and everything, how can I get my money from the sale over with minimal being stolen from South Africa and apply for refugee? Meredith, that's not something we're going to discuss here. We've already had people threaten the lives of a guest that we're going to have come on and talk about, and there's currently a criminal case investigating that. Threaten the life of someone who was simply going to offer advice on how you move money. It wasn't even targeted for refugees, but there are evil people at work. That's why we have to have the moderators here. Bite me, 35 grand. Thank you for that. Yeah, Democrats, I would like to thank Colonel Chris for the unwavering dedication, time, supernatural patience, in regards to this matter. You're welcome. 19-1, yeah. Buckle up, Buttercup. Yeah. You're welcome there, Art. Not enough Vaseline. You're welcome, Liz. Where does Rob get that information? Should you worry if you work for American companies out? Yes, you should, Andre DeVette, because if the president imposes trade restrictions or embargoes on South Africa, then American companies won't be able to do business here legally, if he does that. Turning this dollar live, it looks like it's bad for the dollar, currently 19.14. LJ says, a fellow American, I want to thank Colonel for all you're doing to help South Africa. Well, I'm helping everybody, man, but you're welcome. KLD Technologies for your American barbecue. Chips fun. Thank you. Before the Colonel, I did not realize the little misinformation. Well, that's the problem by me, because so many people don't get it. They read the news, they have no reason not to believe them, and the way they skew the news. Look, when you disagree with me, I say, show me your facts, okay? Like a few minutes ago, is it Rudy Bledefeld? You know, I said, what are you talking about? What he was talking about was the raising of the threshold for reporting cash transactions. And I said, he's correct, because he is correct. But the reality is that the Treasury Department looks at all transactions, and particularly when they're unusual. So you don't have to have the $10,000 threshold to get their attention. You can have much lower than that. If you got a bunch of micropayments of $700, $900, $1,100, $1,200, $500, $700, and they seem unwarranted, the software is going to pick up on that, and they're going to come looking for it, see what's going on. It's another international student walking out there. So happy staying 25 years, says Anita. Okay. $70,000 count people sub and hit that like. Well done, America. Don't pull your stocks. Wait. All the countries who had tariffs imposed will have to negotiate. Exactly. Dion says it's headed for 20-1. ANC learns what a good video. Yep. They are in deep, very up shit creek. You're welcome, Gordon Jameson. Sounds like a whiskey, Gordon Jameson. Sean Mortimer, 14 rands. Thank you for that. Email to apply for FGs. The question is, right time to send email to apply. What do you mean you sent an email to apply for FG? There's no way to do it. The program isn't open. So the right time to apply will be when the program is open. These developments don't affect the refugee program. I'm sure it'll just continue. Is there a current forum where entrepreneurs coming together to discuss starting business in the U.S. anticipated refugee program? No, I mean, remember you're talking a few tens of thousands of people. Why would we start businesses for that? You can start your own business when you come here. You're used to dealing with a few tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, a couple million. We're talking a third of a billion people in this country. Art's out of here. Which South African would you like to interview at this point in time? Ramaphosa or Lamola. I'd like to tear Lamola apart. So we went over 69,000 subscribers. Cool. Russell, I'm sorry you were robbed. Friends Farm in Aranya, Steve. Okay, thank you for sharing that. I can't make a prediction on that Willem Hudson bag because we don't have a program. Once I have a program, I can give you an idea. But, I mean, it's just a guess, a shot in the dark. No one knows. So much respect for people like you who do the selfless work in President Trump. You're welcome, Miranda. It's my pleasure. It's a bribe for your daughter-in-law's birthday. Okay, Corey, we won't be out too much longer. He was chopped with pangas and he died. Oh my goodness. Oh, he was speculating. Okay, see, see, people came on and said there's a list of people being sanctioned. That's not true. You cannot, sorry, Afrikaners, you're like Americans. You just rush off with rumors and go with it. That's why I'm very explicit and very clear-headed about what I say. The problem is people don't pay attention, and they believe what they want to believe, and they run off. You got to be careful with that, okay? Lewis 70 Rand, thank you for the super sticker. Yeah, I said this is Zimbabwe, like in my video.
That's why I said what I said. Bro. That's on everybody.
What about Gate McKenzie? Wife worked for a U.S.-based company. Not good if they pull out of the country. You're right, Reg. I agree, and that's something that no one's been talking about. I'm going to be talking to an economist on Saturday about that very specific problem. I've been pointing it out and highlighting for ages because I know South Africans who work for American companies remotely, and that's going to be devastating. Echo Talk. I try to read your message. There's just a lot of them here. Hey, Jan. SpaceX Dragon, man. Okay. Erica, Chicken Madras. Don't tell me that. I'm starving. Great show. Always look forward to it. Would you perhaps be open to interviewing Thomas? Yeah, absolutely. Sure. Yeah, can you make it happen, Ricky Tan? Ricky Tan, is that Ricky Tan from Lethal Weapon? Or no, not Lethal Weapon. The Jackie Chan movies. Ricky Tan. Jackie Chan and Chris Tucker. Do you understand the words coming out of my mouth? Or is that really your name, Ricky Tan? All right, we don't really need a biography about Gabe McKenzie. Please stop putting in there. We're going to delete your messages.
Oh, okay. Yes, I
Yeah, people read and hear what they want to believe. Yeah, things are real, Thomas Lombard. They're very real. They're going to get friends and family only. Chris Ayler said, "Did I do something to offend you?" No, Chris. Why would you think that? Where did you get that impression? Did I miss something you said? My apologies, Chris Aylers. Mozzie West, 35 Rand super sticker. Thank you for that. Jean Spice, 70 Rand. Friends and family only. Friday. You're welcome. Thank you. Oh my God! Stop talking about Gabe McKenzie, Bertie. Somebody remove his comments. I don't like people just cutting and pasting stuff and telling their novels here. Can one of my moderators remove all those comments about Gabe McKenzie? Just take it off or give the person a timeout and they'll all disappear. Give them 35 rands. Not one report on the bill dropped in Congress saying any South African media. Actually there was. News 24, Ronnie Lamola complained about it, so it has been talked about. No, they won't withdraw unless they're told to. Amazon. I think the DA should kick the ANC out of the government national union. Yeah, so why do you think I'm upset with you? You didn't offend me, Chris Ayler. No, you didn't offend me.
No, but so, I mean, I was so
Oh wow, look at that. I've caught up in the chat. Aren't they reciprocal tariffs? So South Africa were to reduce tariffs, wouldn't the US say yes, yes? Yes, if South Africa reduces its barriers, we'll reduce ours. But South Africa's claim it's only 7.6%.
Oh no.
But here's the thing, even if South Africa's tariffs, their genuine tariffs were only 7.6%, that's almost 400% of what we charge for tariffs. We charge zero for $3 billion worth of goods. The rest of your, oh my God, this guy's loud. The rest of your goods come at 2.4%. So 2.4, your tariffs in South Africa are 300% higher than ours. So that's unfair. So they'd have to reduce those. Also, restrictions on and quotas for poultry. We can't send pigs to South Africa because of ridiculous requirements in poultry. Which Nguni language you're asking about, Sydney? I don't speak Nguni languages. Johan Blingno, thank you for the 40 Rand. Yeah, no confidence is needed in Cyril. No, the Zelensky buying the platinum mine was fake news, apparently. The bill won't affect your applications whatsoever, Willem, because this has nothing to do with the program.
I know.
Yeah, okay, you gotta get this shit out of your head. No one gets deported, for God's sake. I've been saying this, now I'm gonna get irritated. I've been saying this over and over again for 2 months. Refugees never leave. That's why I don't want refugees. They never leave. They never leave. A refugee is supposed to be a person you give sanctuary to while the situation threatens their life and perils their life back home. Once that problem is resolved, they're supposed to go home, but they never go home. The Liberians were given 3 years to come here on special status in 1990. They're still freaking here. They didn't become citizens. Most of them are still here. Democrats can't kick you out. We really don't understand our political system. Yes, I fact check everything, Jan. It's difficult. It becomes more challenging. They bat an eye to the news media anymore. They all have political agenda. They do. They do. Yeah, go to the Substack. If one of my mods could post the Substack, And then they can go find all the videos. Toronto. All right, so here's a troll. Here's a troll. IBI 16. If America stops destroying and looting their home countries, maybe less refugees. We're not destroying and looting anybody, so you got so much shit, your eyes must be brown. So full of shit. Steel imports from Germany to South Africa. Well, the tariffs have no impact on that. And Chris, the tariffs, Germans and South Africa trade not affected by tariffs from us. Oh, I'm sure they will ask in the State Department briefing, but I'm not going to be able to cover that because I'm here. Does anyone who approached about possibility to go over farm meantime? Rudy, are you asking about H-2A visas? There's recruiters in South Africa that do the whole process to get people over here. If you ask that question when I'm not sitting on a mobile phone, we could probably get you some information on who to talk to. Matilda, thank you for becoming a team member. Offer Connor medal, that'd be nice. Melanie Land, thank you for the 70 rand. Thank you, Morning Milan. Mass respect for Chris, massive patents in the live chat. You can't cure stupid, but you can muffle it with duct tape. That's true. Let me get back to my comment from the other day, which I've yet to post online. I find that I've got it here somewhere. This is my quote from the other day. I came up with this. The ANC is a spoiled child that has lived a gluttonous childhood, pampered with unfettered power, always getting its way, suddenly confronted with the aches and pains of puberty, and it cannot handle it. No, you can't vote in America unless you're an American citizen. Nope. You can't work at SpaceX if it requires a clearance, but they have plenty of jobs that don't require clearances. So there you go. Yeah, that's how I describe the ANC. Of course you can be stopped. South Africa is a sovereign state. They can prevent anybody from coming or going from the country. Yeah, I didn't put entitlement in there. Anyway, sadly, folks, I need to scoot. I've got to go. If things go well, I might be doing the Lions broadcast in an hour and a half, but that means if I go back for a finish, we'll see. All right. Thank you, Joe. You guys take care. Appreciate being here. Be sure to hit the like button. Only 591 likes. Wow. I thought we'd have a lot more than that at this stage. Sorry, Thomas, but I got work to do. I get paid to do something else, not be here. I got to go fulfill my obligations there. My other time is my time, but I owe people my time right now. All right. Cheers. Thank you for being here. Look for me later on today.